Okay, so I guess we should start now. Like 3, 2, 1. We need some background music. You have any background music?
That isn't offensive. That isn't offensive. Background music that isn't offensive.
This is our first time doing this. This is officially episode 1.
Yeah.
Ooh, congratulations. We finally did it. We've been talking about this. We've been talking about this for like forever.
Cheers, friends.
Cheers. Episode 1. Ah, well, that's wonderful. Okay, so my name is Mark. This is Jeanette.
I'm Jeanette.
And we go by many names, but none of them are appropriate for YouTube or wherever we can get this to broadcast on. Ooh. Oh, you can't play copyrighted stuff on there.
No, I know. I just didn't even mean to play that one either. Yeah. So like we need like.
Yeah, you're gonna have to like kind of bring your mic up if you need to like raise it up more. This is our chance to work out the bugs.
Okay, so yes.
You can actually prop the whole thing up.
Actually, what I had done is I had done that. Oh, just the whole thing.
Yeah. And then you can move around from there.
Okay, this feels comfortable because this is like...
Is it a little bit better?
Yeah, well, this is good because I could like move to the side and have a drink. I mean,
yeah.
You know.
So, here's what's going on. We've been talking about this for at least 6 months, a year. I don't know. I don't think I've known Jeanette more than 2.5 years. So, within that time frame. Episode 1, we have 0 budget. No budget. I must stress this. So, we're just chilling back. We have very in-depth, deep conversations. As all Americans I know. And also, on top of that, you know, you have to have like drinks when you're talking and conversing, right?
Yeah, that's when the honesty comes out and real opinions come out.
So I'm not showing the labels. I don't know copyright laws or anything like that. I don't know. We're not being sponsored by anybody. I like my go-to drink when I'm just chilling is Johnny Walker Black, and I got my delightful little round ice cubes I made.
I mean, hopefully one day they will pay you to drink.
Oh, yes. It's like, I got a case of scotch in the mail. What is this about? I get hammered that night. It's like, oh, there's none left for the show.
And one day, you know, Sky Vodka will pay me to drink as well. So I'm just saying.
Just saying, guys, if you're one day, 10 years from now, when you're listening to this, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, you know, we can totally do that. So you can push it up more.
Yeah, like it's fine.
This is our first time, so it's kind of hard.
Yeah,
so we have to like tighten it up.
This is where it needs to be.
So that needs to be tightened up.
Yeah, right there. Because it was like a perfect position, and then. All right, so.
I can tighten this one up too.
Oh, there we go. That's happening. Okay.
Thank you, China, for these Chinese-made mics and mic stands, and probably the cables, probably the soundboard. iPad Pro, which is Chinese made by Chinese people working 14 hours a day in little dark buildings with nets on the outside that they put on the outside so people won't kill themselves. We appreciate you very much.
Yes.
You know, without our Chinese brothers in China, this would not be possible. And without Johnny Walker Black and Sky Vodka. Sky Vodka. So, you know, we'll see where this goes. So, we had quite the experience this weekend. This is our first time doing this.
Yes.
And we kind of jumped the gun, and we did a remote shoot this weekend. We'll punch it in here in a little bit. You know what I mean? I've started the new job. Jeanette's been at her job, and you know, we're not ghost hunters. This is not a ghost hunting series. We're not like paranormal specialists on the trail of Bigfoot.
No, not at all. But it's pretty exciting though.
Yeah. So, but I did have the experience the chance to experience something paranormal.
Yes, and
I was talking about it for like the last 3 weeks. Nobody believed me. Maybe like a moderate amount of belief, but nobody believed me. But there's like this banging on the floor every like half hour, so and you can feel the floor rumbling like the I don't know, like something wants to get out of the floor, and you're just like, what the hell?
Background too, though, because working in the buildings that we work in, so it seems like there's always that rumor that every building that I've ever worked in that you've been in has been haunted.
Yes.
So it's interesting that, we've had the stories from people who worked in these buildings, but this is the first time that we decided that your experience at your building was pretty real.
Pretty real. Well, so it's kind of funny with hauntings. You think a place is haunted.
Yeah.
You hear rumors, talks, and all that stuff. And you might even think you heard something. That's always the thing. You always think you hear something when you're working alone. You're hard at work. You have your music on and all that. And you think you hear something. It could be the AC turning on. It could be the, buildings creak.
Yeah.
Stuff. But this one was different.
Yes, it was.
And I've been talking about how pronounced it was. Like I say, to me, it was like almost like desk drawers just slamming, like, bam!
Something heavy falling.
In the basement.
Yes.
Right. There's a legit basement at this building, and that I keep on hearing bangs from, and it's like you hear it from one side of the building on the west side, then you hear it on the east side of the building. It's just very curious. It has just us very curious, and we're like, huh. So I invited Jeanette, like, hey, let's go to my office real fast. Let me show you my office. Let me just show you my new digs and all that so you can check it out. And maybe we might hear something. So we went in on a, it was 9:30. It wasn't even crazy late.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't like midnight or 3 a.m, the witching hour, or anything like. It was around 9:30.
It's a pretty good time.
We were in there maybe like 30 seconds walking into my office. And you heard that first bang. Mm-hmm. And I remember asking you, like, did you hear that, Jeanette? And you're like, huh, yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely, I was curious.
It was curious.
Because, we had walked in, so you think that it's kind of like the noises from the walking in, there's activity.
Yeah.
But what's weird is if it's loose floorboards.
Right.
We were walking clearly on the floor, but once we sat down and we heard it later,
so
there's no reason for that.
Okay, so sub-level, you expect moving buildings to be settling, moving a little bit, all that creaking and all that. You're right, we walked in, and you hear the first bang, because it is a bang. It's not a creak, it's a bang. Mm-hmm. But, again, we were walking in, but then we sat down, and we weren't moving around. We were just sitting down, just chit-chatting. And I don't know, was the second one from the other side of the building? Because we heard like 4, distinct 4 that night. The last one we heard when we left. Then there was the one we walked in, we heard when we walked in. And then 2 more somewhere in between.
Yes. What's interesting is that the one as we walked in, for sure we heard 3 while we were sitting in your office. No one was walking in the building.
Building was
sitting,
empty.
Yes. And then as we were leaving.
Not only that, the window in my office looks out the front door.
That's true. There was no one there.
But as we were leaving, what was going on?
As we were leaving on your audio, you heard it. Again, it was very, audio picked up a lot of noise, which we didn't get to hear, which was very interesting that.
So, to do a Family Guy cutaway, I'll probably cut the video here, insert it or overlap it to see if we can hear it. Right.
And it's like you hear it.
It's loud.
Yeah, and it's obvious.
Obvious.
It's not subtle. It's not is my mind playing a trick? It's an obvious thing. What the hell? I know.
Again, no budget.
Zero budget.
Zero budget.
Just, and total judgment. I like my drinks in the big glass, so.
Yeah, and I like to feel like I'm a fancy girl,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting, but Yeti too, though, if they're watching.
So Yeti sponsor.
Come on, sponsor us.
They may want outdoor. No, this is the classy Yeti stuff. You don't have to be just outdoor using Yeti. You can use it in the inside while you're having a drink.
Yes.
Right. Aww.
Big, and don't be judgy. This is the big one. This is what it's all about.
Jeanette likes the big ones.
So just an intro to how inappropriate it could possibly get.
Right. We'll keep it PG.
For now.
Possibly PG-13. We don't know. We don't know where this is going to go yet. Okay. So obviously everybody's like has an opinion about paranormal or hauntings.
Yes.
There's a lot of shows on that, and that's not our intent. This is not like a paranormal show or a haunting show, but we do want to take the liberty to be able to do stuff like that too, and be like, hey, okay, so we're in southern, the Southwest United States, southern New Mexico. We're not in L.A., big city, not in, Times Square, New York, which I love both places. Okay, don't get me wrong. We're in little southern New Mexico.
Yes.
Land of enchantment, beautiful country, beautiful skies, greatest sunsets in the world. Can't beat it. I recommend everybody go visit New Mexico, and there's a lot to do outdoors. But with New Mexico, there's a lot of legends.
A lot of superstition, legends, and...
Right. You have Indian massacres, you have the Spanish, Catholics, enslavement, the Mexican-American War, the Spanish fighting the Indians. New Mexico is a part of the continent that's been, and if I sound like a dork saying this because I can't enunciate, then my bad. But it's like the longest part where there's been a continual habitation of Homo sapiens or humans in North America. A
lot of history here.
A lot of history here.
A lot of history. It's a very old land.
You have the Apache Indians, like to the east of us, you have the Mascalero tribes, the Apaches. Up north, you have the Navajo reservations. Kind of northwest, you have the Zuni. And then if you go northwest to Arizona, you have the Hopi. So, and those names refer to like how old they are, like the ancient ones. So you have like a lot of old history here, a lot of legends. Just a lot of stuff, Billy the Kid, Buffalo Soldiers. So I think, New Mexico doesn't get the credit that it deserves, like El Paso, another one, John Harding was killed there, famous gunslinger, outlaw. You have Fort Bliss. Fort Bliss is one of the largest military installations in the United States. I don't really people realize that how big it is, but it's one of the largest military installations in the United States.
And it's a training base.
It's a training
They
base.
do a lot of simulation out in the desert.
Well, so El Paso, it's around the Franklin Mountains, kind of like cradles the Franklin Mountains, and it's on the border with the Juarez. Mm-hmm. Juarez, it's called El Paso del Norte. It was on the Camino Real from the old Spanish days, the Royal Road that headed up to the mines in Colorado and Santa Fe, and so it's a really old place, and. You know where Fort Bliss at? It's on the east side of the mountains. Yes. Right? Big installation. Well, people don't realize Fort Bliss actually started on the west side of the mountains. Oh. So, you're going to have to envision this going down I-10, south on I-10. You're going into El Paso. You're passing UTEP, the college there. Yeah. And on the UTEP exit, which is executive, there's 2 yellow apartment complexes on the right-hand side. Oh. And it's hard to see them because you're on the highway, but you do see them, and there's a plaque there. Those are like the 2 last remaining buildings when Fort Bliss was on the east side. It originally was there on the border. Part of the forts from the Indian forts, had all the forts were like only a day apart. You had Fort Selden here in Las Cruces. You had Fort Bayard in Silver City. You go up further north from Fort Selden. You have what's that one going to Albuquerque? There's Fort, I can't think of the name of it. There's a fort there.
I know that there's Fort Sumner.
Fort Sumner, that's more like in
that's between
Capitan.
Yeah, it's Capitan. Like out in the mountain type.
Yeah. It's you go through Ruidoso,
to the east.
Like going to Lincoln County.
Yes.
Yeah. So Fort Bliss is like one of those forts. There's ruins of all these forts, but this one stayed. It was in the big city. Black Jack Pershing was stationed there. Do you know Black Jack Pershing?
Actually, do not.
A little bit of history. So I'm a history nerd. So Pancho Villa raided Columbus, right? Okay. We supported Pancho Villa when he was fighting, the Obregón from the Constitutionalists or the Federalistas. You had Madero from down south. Madero was Zapata. Madero was one part of the government. You had Zapata. He had the Zapatistas. He's that Mexican. He has a big sombrero. He has a mustache. He's beloved by all Mexicans. And he was like trying to fight for land reform in Mexico. But once Pancho Villa lost favor of the United States government because we supported him, I think it was Zachary Taylor. I'm not sure. But he raided Columbus looking for like horses and stuff. There's nothing out there. You know, people say he was going to steal stuff. There's nothing in Columbus. I mean, even today, there's nothing.
There's like an interesting building. There's an interesting building though. It looks like a resort type hotel.
Your mic's kind of pull it in front of you. Make sure you kind of work it and pull it.
There you go. But there is an interesting building between.
That way, like
this way.
Yeah, pull the whole stand your way.
Dang.
Try to pull the whole stand a little bit over your direction. Like I say, because people would be like, "Who's this weird chick talking?" You can't hear.
Oh no, we can't hear. What the heck? But there is a cool little building. It looks like a hotel type. Mm-hmm. It's a very interesting building between Deming and Columbus.
I've never been in that one. There's a little town out there between Columbus and Mexico. It's called oh shit, I don't remember that. It's kind of a funny little name, like Happy or something like that. I don't know. There's one building in Columbus that leans. It's right on the border. Mm-hmm. And it's an old building and it's leaning and it leans into Mexico. So on the first floor of the United States, and if you stand in a certain place on the second floor, you could actually stand in Mexico. Yeah.
How weird.
How weird. So anyway, Pancho Villa was the one who raided Columbus, like one of the few times the United States been raided. The Japanese raided the Aleutian Islands in World War II. The British raided in the Second American Revolution, the War of 1812. Mm-hmm. You know, and I remember that Jackson in Louisiana.
Yes.
The British, right? So the British invaded. Pancho Villa raided Columbus. Like a little raid, they shot up. Maybe like one person died, shot buildings. Not much happened.
That was like half their population.
Half the population. One person died, and Columbus population went down by like 50%.
50%.
There was an outcry by the last person still there.
There's only 2 people living in Columbus.
No!
It was a massacre.
So it was a massacre. We lost half of our population. So Blackjack Pershing was assigned to chase Pancho Villa down. You know, the first time we used like automobiles, planes, and all that. They chased him all down through the mountains in Chihuahua. There's a name for the mountain, like the Copper Hills or something like that. I don't remember the names of them, but they went down there and chased him down. They never really found him, but it was out of Fort Bliss, Blackjack Pershing. And so he was the one that was the head of the American Expeditionary Force, AEF, in World War I. So the American soldiers that went to fight in World War I, he was the head of the AEF. So, a lot of history there. And not only that, you know who General George Patton is, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
World War II, he was a big tank commander. He had this big falling out with Ike. He wasn't allowed to land on Normandy because, he slapped a soldier in Italy and all that. Anyways, what's his name? Patton was actually in Fort Bliss. And they said he used to wait on the doorstep of the house that Pershing lived in to be like one of his subordinates to like work with him.
Yeah, that's cool.
To kind of gain his favor. So a lot of history down here, I guess. I mean, I went on a way tangent. Yeah, so a lot of history down here.
A lot of spooky history.
A lot of spooky history.
Yeah.
Right. So, anyways, going back with building, we were in there. Ba-ba-bam. Ba-ba-bam. Like, and it feels like it's coming from the ground, like somebody wants to come out.
It was eerie. You get an unnerved feeling.
After a while, you do, right?
Yeah, like the first time you hear it, you're like, yeah, okay, maybe, but it's still very eerie.
Yeah.
Second time,
right?
This is weird, and the third time, it's like, yeah, no, the third time, the fourth and the fifth time is gonna be like a ghost in your face. Like, there's no way. I'm not gonna stick around for that.
I hope the mic doesn't make a lot of sound. We're moving it around, trying to get this right. Again, this is our first time. Yeah.
It could only get better. So
we can only get better from here. But yeah, so like at first you don't realize you realize it's there, but it kind of catches your attention. But as it continues, it gets more and more unnerving.
Yes.
Because it doesn't go away, and I don't want to say it gets louder, but it's loud.
And it is, and I don't know. It was very peculiar.
It was. It's like you had to hear it to believe it, right?
Yeah.
I hear it during the day now. So today.
Okay.
Today. So I hear it during the day now. Now that I'm paying attention, I can hear it during the day. Mm-hmm. People that come in and are sitting in that room, they say they hear it too. Somebody was telling me that they kept hearing footsteps on the stairs going to the basement. I got a camera with night vision, motion detector, and I stuck it in the basement.
How long is this camera gonna run? Does it have?
It's battery.
It's gonna run.
It's a battery pack. I don't know how long the battery. It's like a profession, ones that they make for, companies. So the battery pack will last a good while. And so I'm looking at it here. I'll have to take a screenshot and put it in there. I mean, it's very spooky, right? But I'm looking at it. Nothing. There's no motion detecting or anything right now.
Wow.
And yeah. So our CPR dummy is down there. She's not moving. So it's very peculiar. We're gonna see what happens. So give it a day or two. By the next podcast, we may have a report on whether the crash test dummy moves.
And the dummy looks pretty scary in itself.
God,
I mean, poor thing is not even groomed. It's like a 2-year-old just dragged that doll through the mud.
I don't know.
Dirt, I don't know.
I have my big afro
It's not dirty,
wig.
but it's pretty unruly.
I have my big afro wig here. I'm going to go dress her up in my afro wig.
That would give her a better look.
It's classy. Very
classy. Well, I mean, also, too, think about,
Right?
She's a mess.
She's a
dummy's
mess.
a mess.
She's a hot little mess.
She's a hot dummy mess.
Oh, my gosh. So yeah, we'll play some here in a minute. We'll cut away to that so you can kind of hear it, and it'll be kind of interesting. You know what I mean? So, any thoughts after you left there? When you left, what was your feeling once you left? After I told you about it, I had been talking about it. Once we left, what did you think?
I definitely believed, and it was definitely a real experience in my mind.
Yeah.
I was just hoping to baby Jesus that this thing, whatever is there, is not following me back home.
I know, right?
Because, you never know.
We're saging ourselves, holy water, sana, cola, like all yeah, hopefully we don't bring it home, right?
Hopefully we don't bring it home. But then we went to the cemetery, so God knows what we might have brought home from the cemetery. But there was nothing. The
cemetery was
strange.
A dud.
Yeah, the cemetery, there was nothing strange about it.
New Mexico legend. There was a sheriff. His name was Happy, and I was trying to read up a little bit about it. Happy Apodaca, and there was a waitress. Her name was Cricket. I have it pulled up here. She was 18 years old. I actually have a picture of the headstones. I'll put the headstones on here in once we edit this out. But his name was Happy Apodaca, and her name was Olga Cricket Googler. And the article I was reading said she liked the party. Girls like the party.
Well, everyone likes to party. I mean, we're partying right now.
They're partying right now, right? Girls like the party back then, and apparently, people from the state government, whatever, they'd come down here. They like the party down here, and they encouraged loose girls back then to party.
I think that's still happening today.
Yeah, something like that. They encouraged her to party. But so what happened was she turned up murdered in the field, and I was reading her body was ran over. They ran over her body. It was in the 40s.
That's so.
Yeah. It was 1949. It was a violent death. She was murdered. She was raped, murdered, and they found her body ran over and all that. Now, and they didn't know who did it. And there's reports. The legend goes that she may have somehow been involved with this guy Happy, and but everybody was coming apart. I don't know. There's a lot to it.
There's a lot of interesting things that have happened in the city, though.
Yeah.
And that could be a later time, a lot of interesting stuff.
So the legend goes that at night, if you hang out in the old Masonic cemetery at night, you can hear a scream late at night. We were there about 10 to 11:30. I talked to a buddy of mine. He said he was there around 12:30. That's where they heard the scream.
Oh, and were they in the cemetery?
Yes.
Did we have to go further in the cemetery?
I don't know if you have to actually be in there. It seems like the cemetery is big, but it's not huge. So it seems like you'd be able to hear it.
Yeah, I think we might have to take a team.
We're going to take a team.
Just in case that, we actually get attacked by
zombies.
Well, zombies and homeless and cats and dogs.
Right, something. So I was talking to this guy yesterday, and we were talking about it. And he's like, no, it's the floorboards. No, it's settling. No, it's this. No, you can't take that away from hauntings and paranormal activity. You can't take away that air ducts and the AC, and you just can't take that away. I think you have to eliminate it the best you can.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And but in my mind, I told him, like, there's always that little bit that you can't explain.
I mean, yes, and I mean, it's not to say that you can't think that maybe something HVAC or something is happening.
Right.
You think maybe, but the way it sounds, I mean, come on, it was like a dropping. It was very peculiar.
Me and this guy
very
were talking, and I'm telling he's done a lot of like construction work, and like he did a lot of stuff like that. He's just telling me like how buildings are settling. I said, I believe it. Okay, I believe you.
Yeah.
I'm not taking that away from you. But these sounds are loud bangs.
Yeah.
So I'm just talking to him about it. I was like, you go on YouTube, you hear all sorts of stuff, you hear all sorts of BS. Just all sorts of bull. People load up everything. People edit stuff. I think, people are like, oh, hey, this would be cool. Whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like 2 girls got 1 cup. I don't know. But, so people get crazy with all that stuff.
I love the way you snuck that in.
Whoa, hey.
Whoa.
But, no, and then we start talking about aliens. He goes, so obviously you believe about aliens. A lot about aliens. I said, look, man, here's the thing. I think I've gone down every rabbit hole you could think about, whether it's government conspiracy, haunting, vortexes, aliens, everything, da 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 da. And so I kind of took him down the tangent of aliens. Let's talk about aliens. Do aliens exist? I don't know. I used to do a lot of driving at midnight, when I worked for this other company. I was driving all over New Mexico. And if you've been to New Mexico, clear skies, not, open areas.
You're going to notice. You're going to notice stuff.
If you see things, you're going to see it.
Yes, you're going to see it.
I feel like I've seen lights, and that's how you explain it, lights, and things out there that you cannot explain. And I said, so let's talk about this alien phenomenon. The universe is big. And I think it's so big that it's hard to fathom how big it is. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yes. I
so
mean,
you're talking about billions upon billions of stars in our galaxy.
There's just no number for it.
There is a number for it, but that's just stars in our galaxy. But when you talk about galaxies, you're talking like numbers within the trillions and trillions. You know what I mean? You're talking a number that is so big, it's hard to wrap your mind about it. They're talking about the universe has been around for umpteen billion years. It's expanding, just trillions of stars, and each star has billions upon billions of trillions of galaxies, and every galaxy has billions and billions of stars. So yeah, I think there's idiots out there that say like, oh, aliens, and they hoax stuff, and they you very cleverly, you get your camera and you record a light that's reflecting or something like a sundog or like a sun flare reflects off your lens, and you can kind of play with it and all that. But I still think there's a margin for error that's unexplainable. Also,
and the possibility, the universe is way too big.
Right.
There's come on.
The way that something that was really described to me once is there's like a 1 in like a 90 billion or 10 billion, something like that, billion chance of you being born.
Yeah.
So when your parents got busy.
Oh wow, that's not what I know.
But when your parents got busy and they did their deed and they conceived you, and from the ovum being fertilized and implementing,
I was the one.
You were the one.
I was the one part of the sperm that won.
You were the one that won. You're fighting out the other sperms. Oh, wow. But it's something like 1 in 10 billion, 1 in 50 billion of a chance of you being born.
Yes.
There's an actual quantified number in the billions of you being born. Now, when you're talking about stars and you're talking about the innumerable amount of galaxies out there that will have billions upon billions of stars, if there's a 1 in 50 billion chance of me being born, but yet there's 50 billion stars in more than 50 billion stars in one galaxy, and then you have trillions of galaxies, like there are odds in the favor of life existing out there. Like, the percentage wise, it's just in favor of something being out there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I think that The possibility is there.
Right.
I mean, if we're here on Earth, because I mean, it's just, such a big number that, I mean, it's that the odds are against us that we're even here today.
Right.
And the fact that people cannot open up their minds to think that there isn't possible life elsewhere. I think what people maybe need to get their minds around is that what that possible life looks like is not going to be what we think it is, because this is our definition.
We base it on our own bias.
Yes, and what we think and what we see life could be. I mean,
there's
we have
a name
to
for
expand
that.
our mind.
It's called the bias something, and I'm going to use my nifty Google. Google, you don't sponsor us. It'd be nice if you did, but but if you did, that would be awesome. There's this thing called the bias something. Basically, what it says is, even if we know facts, we still present it with a certain amount of bias. And there's a name for that, and I can't think of the name of it. It's called the bias something. And so, no matter how well you try to explain a logic with numerical values and all that, you still base it on bias.
I also think that people need to also realize that life could be something very super small. It could be something like an organism, just like kind of.
Right.
It doesn't have to be and it could be even bigger than we realize.
So, you go to the bottom of the Mariana Trench, and that's under billions of gallons of water. The pressure there's insane. You're talking about billions of pounds of pressure on like a little square inch. It's just so much weight on top of it, because the Mariana Trench, you could hide the Himalayas in the Mariana Trench and you wouldn't see it. That's how deep it is. But then you have the volcanic vents underneath there where there's warmth coming out from the earth, and they find life down there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have such an extreme environment and life is still there. There's a bacteria that when they were in space, they didn't realize it was up there, but they found that this little bacteria deal was living on the space station in the vacuum of space. It was alive.
Interesting.
Right. So you have different extremes on the bottom of the ocean, in outer space. You have life in the Arctic, on the ocean. Is it the Antarctic that has the ocean? I think it's the Antarctic. In the Antarctic that has the under, it's cold. It's deep water again, and you have life.
But you can still have life.
So
we have to wrap our minds around the fact that it's going to look different.
It's possible. Mm-hmm. And when you start looking at the math, trillions of stars with billions of galaxies, it kind of tilts it in the favor that there could be life. Life is possible. What is that? Jeff Goldblum, he had that quote in Jurassic Park. You give life the chance or something like that, or you give it the opportunity and Mother Nature takes it away. Do you remember that?
I don't, but I know what you're talking about. That was a good one. The first one?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, he was good.
Anyway. And he said something that you give it a chance and it'll basically run with it. And so it doesn't take much, their planets have to be in the right. Who said we search for planets that are in a certain range? Mm-hmm. It has to be a certain size because of gravity. We assume all life needs water. It has to be a certain distance from the sun because of heat and all that. So we assume that life has to exist in a certain Goldilocks zone. But who's really to say for sure? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think something that's even probably cool nowadays is that, I mean, do you ever watch that one show, Paranormal, Caught on Camera?
No,
it's like on, God, I don't even know what channel it is, but they have more documented videos and stuff like that. Is because now we're in a day and age where we have technology.
Everybody's got a cell phone, and they have great cameras.
Yeah, I mean, even though
confirmation bias. It's called a confirmation bias. I'm sorry, I had to spit that out. Confirmation bias is when you're presenting information, when you're presenting facts, when you're presenting something. But no matter what you do, you're always going to have a confirmation bias. Not intentionally. Mm-hmm. It's just either the way you're raised, your beliefs, If you believe in global warming, or maybe you don't believe in global warming, but you're proving that it's real, but you're still going to present it in a way that you don't believe it. You know what I mean?
But there's always going to be that one person. But, paranormal stuff happens. Hauntings, I believe, happen. I mean, we went to a place like in your building where it hasn't been confirmed. You and I, before, we worked in a place where, multiple people had that feelings, but there's places like like the Double Eagle, where there's like a multiple of people who've
so you have to explain it to people that don't know. So real fast, let me give you the definition of confirmation bias. This is pretty good. The tendency to interpret new evidence as confirmation of one's existing beliefs or theories. So you may have new evidence, but you're always going to present it in a way that will confirm your beliefs or your theories. Even if it's just a little bit, you're still going to do it. That's the confirmation bias. And no matter how you argue stuff, we all have a little bit of a bias. So, Double Eagle, Jeanette just mentioned it. It's a haunted building. It's in a place called Mesilla, New Mexico. Beautiful building. The building is a couple of 100 years old. It's, the Spaniards used to go there, and the Gadsden Purchase was signed there when we, after the Mexican-American War, we needed a route to lay railroad tracks that didn't go through the Rockies, and so they purchased a strip of land, and they actually bought it from the Mexican government, and that was all signed in Mesilla. So this place in Mesilla is very beautiful. You should check it out sometime, but it's called the Double Eagle. It's a restaurant. It's an old, part like a hacienda, kind of like a
And what's the story? Do you actually, I've heard it, but I still don't know it by heart. In there.
Okay. So the building was actually like somebody's house. So it's called a hacienda in Spanish. It's like a big house, kind of. I don't want to say like a plantation, but it's like kind of like a big thing. Yeah. Like that, you know what I mean? And so this really touched me. Okay. It really touched me. You're gonna see why. Okay. So these people live there, and their son lived there, and they were well off. They obviously they had this hacienda, this building back then, the big building back then, which was very rare, but. And they had servants, and all that stuff. So the son, they wanted the son to marry wealthy and and all that good stuff, do well and all that. Well, the son falls in love with the servant girl. Oh, okay. And he carried off this, it wasn't an affair, he wasn't married, but he carried off this love affair with her. He was in love with her. The mother, so Spanish versus Mexican, they didn't want to intermingle. The Mexican class system, it's very complicated. You have a little Indian in you, you have a little Mexican. If you're a full-blood Spanish, you're seen as almost like royalty. If you're part Spanish. And a lot of the hired hands were Mexicans. And so these people looked down on these people that were...
probably called... Was it mestizo?
No, he's probably just like...
Mexicans.
But he fell in love with her. Well, the mom caught them in bed together. The mom goes into an angry rage, gets a pair of scissors, I think it was, and stabs the girl to death in bed. And while she's going at it, she stabs her some 30 times. She dies. Oh, wow. She ends up hurting her son too. He didn't die that night, but he succumbed to the injuries from the infection and all that. He succumbed to it. Mm-hmm. So back in those days, it's very common for you to bury bodies of your loved ones on your property. They don't know where he's buried, but they assume he's buried within the vicinity.
So he's buried in Old Mesilla, probably somewhere.
Somewhere near the restaurant. Yeah. So the mother is this old lady. She's angry, and she dies an angry person. Her beloved son dies that she killed, essentially. Wow. So there's a room called the ghost room. You go in there, you can have dinner and all that. People have all sorts of experiences. Glasses breaking. When I was there, the lights just turned off.
Oh, wow.
Ghost hunters went there, and they took pictures of things that were there. You can see a picture that they took, that you see an apparition there. But they believe it's related to these spirits. One was, the son, and one's the daughter, and then the angry mom. Kind of a cool place, spooky, cool, beautiful. It still has that very Spanish feel about it, that very antique feel about it. But the legend goes that it's haunted, and so again, I felt very touched because he fell in love with the maid, essentially. Yeah. Cleanly. Aww. Oh, so I felt that instant connection. Yeah.
That is just such a terrible way to die.
Scissors. Ugh. Mom, I love you. Thank God. I live with you. And
jeez,
thank God we live in the 20th century. My God.
I mean, the fact that she probably got away with it is even probably what kills me about it.
She probably did get away with it.
I know. It's like, she fell into the scissors like 30 times.
Right.
Okay.
But it probably wasn't even that.
It's probably they probably just buried her.
Like 300 years ago, it wasn't even that. They probably said, this Mexican woman slept with my son. They're like, she was Mexican? Okay.
Or she didn't have to say anything. He's like, well, let's just clean it up.
Oh, I'm sorry. She's a cleaning lady? Oh, my bad. No, you're fine. It's understandable.
I mean, it's just so brutal. It's probably what's happened.
It's funny how that was not accepted back then, but it is now. We've gone to a point in our time where we accept it. You know what I mean? Well, we've evolved. We see people are all humans. We all have emotions. We fall in love and all that. But it wasn't even accepted up to like 100 years ago. If you were considered of Spanish blood and you're getting with a woman that was Mexican, it was still frowned upon. Just like 100 years ago, if you were like a white woman with a black guy or a white man with a black woman, it was frowned upon.
Interracial couples, yeah.
Right? So we know in the United States, black and white, Civil War and all that, but it exists with the other cultures, you know what I mean? It exists with Mexicans versus Spaniards.
Yeah, and it's a terrible thing because I've always hated that. You could even see it with, yeah.
Well, here's what's curious. So you go to northern New Mexico, they claim to be more Spanish blood, and I'm not taking that away from anybody, but you have to understand, though, New Mexico is landlocked. We're not a coastal state. Mm-hmm. Spaniards came in through Mexico. There's the port of not Monterrey, Puerto Vallarta, I think, is a major Caribbean port. A lot of Spaniards came in through the Caribbean to Mexico. From Mexico, they had migrated up north. Do you know what I mean? So
no, I totally know what you mean.
What I'm kind of getting at is is there such a thing as a pureblood Spaniard here in New Mexico? Do you know what I mean?
And that's even tough to prove. To be honest with you, I've had some experience with that with friends.
That you're Mexican.
No, with friends.
Hola, señorita.
Yeah, no, I mean, and for me, I do have Mexican blood in me, and I'll be the first one to say I do.
You heard it here live.
I do. I'll say it.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
But
I need to have a drink. Hold on. Hold it.
I own it.
I thought I knew Jeanette this whole time, and little did I know.
I know. And all of a sudden, he's like hating.
Who is this Jeanette woman? I never knew.
No, but I've had, from, college experiences where people that I knew in northern New Mexico. I know. College experiences. No, but it's pretty interesting that people will claim that when I was younger and I didn't know, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't know. They would say, "No, I'm Spaniard." And I'm like, "No." For me, when I was younger, I thought it was something like, "Oh, you're just ashamed to say you're Mexican."
Right.
And I wasn't ashamed. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'm Mexican.
Well, I was very proud of that too. My father's side of the family, they came through Mexico, and I know their history. They were Mexican. I
was a first generation from my family who graduated from college.
Really?
I was the first one.
I was like,
actually graduated from high school.
I don't know if I ever graduated.
Yeah, I was the first one who graduated from high school, then college.
My dad's side, I know, is Basque, which is northern Spain, the Basque country, and it's Portuguese. You know what I mean? So, but they came through Mexico, so there could very well be Mexican blood there from his side. Yeah. But my mother's side, she's from Chihuahua, so it's all very, it's very Mexican. My grandmother was very indigenous. She looks very indigenous. Indigenous people have a certain leathery look, wiry hair.
Oh, I love that. My grandma's the same way. My dad's mom, and I have a picture where she looks very. Yeah. I love it. It's a beautiful picture.
Look, right?
There's a lot of Indian. There's a lot of, and to me,
something like the Nahuatl Indian from like Chihuahua.
I love it. There's a lot of. It's a beautiful. But people don't know that.
Right. And my grandfather on my mother's side, he was murdered when she was like 8 years old. So I've seen pictures of him. He actually looks very European. He even has like the little Hitler mustache of the era.
Oh.
So, but he looks
must have been a fashion statement.
Right, must have been a fashion statement. But he was murdered, so we don't know the history of him. My grandmother's long passed, and they didn't know that. The people that probably knew that have all passed because my aunts and uncles have all passed away. But I think there was something there, but you know what I mean. So it's, you know, that's the way it is. Like hundreds of years later, what's going to happen? People are going to mix.
Well, yeah. And you know, it is what it is, and
yeah.
But there are still proud people, and you know, it's so sad that story with the double eagle that
Right.
it was just that's just an example of like.
Well, how common was that back then? Hundreds of years ago. So United States, we're in 2021, so like 121 years ago, it's the turn of the century, 1900s. Civil War ended like what, 1860s or something like that. So 50 years before World War One, you had the end of the Civil War. You know, you had the slaves being freed and all that. Before that, you know, you have the slave culture. We weren't importing slaves from Africa no more, but it was still well ingrained in our culture. Families were separated. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
you know where I can see this going for our next one, the Hispanic culture.
Oh, there's gonna be an episode 2.
There is.
Bum, bum, bum.
Bum, bum. We're winning. We're winning already.
We're already projecting the future. Episode 2.
So all one viewer, tune in.
Yeah, thank you all. One viewer. Episode 1. So we'd like to have one viewer.
Just one. It just takes one.
Please.
Tell your friends.
To light the fire. That little ember.
But you know, there is a lot of, you know, I mean, probably you and I probably have similar stories, things that I've heard about me growing up. I mean, like the Hispanic culture.
Sure.
And there's a lot of like.
Even though I look fantastic, I'm a lot older than you.
Shut up. I'm like
CrossFit.
Jeez. I'm a lot older than you. What are you, 65? So
back in my days. I like to say I've seen a lot happen though. You know, I was born in 78.
You have an old soul.
And
soul.
growing up in the 80s to the 90s to the, you know, the turn of the century, it's changed a lot.
It has.
Everything's changed so much.
And even me, I mean, seriously, think about this.
I don't want to think about you.
No, I didn't say think about me.
Dirty. God.
Think about me.
Whoa.
Think about me right now. No.
Whoa.
Think about this. Think about growing up in a Spanish household.
Here in Cruces, right?
Well, here at Cruces or
so you grew up here in Las Cruces your whole life, right?
No, I didn't.
No, where do you grow up?
Everywhere.
Whoa.
Moved around a lot as a child. My parents were migrant workers.
Were they really?
Yes, they were.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
That's interesting.
So they would move to where the job was at. So moved to California.
I didn't know that you were I feel like I'm discovering so much.
Oh wow! And my parents moved to Michigan, and then you know as they got older, my dad's jobs changed. We settled in Truth or Consequences. That's where
I remember you telling me that.
And then
I was paying attention.
He was paying attention. But you know, like as they got older, they changed jobs and they settled more. But when they were younger, they were moving around a lot with us kids, and I got to see a lot of places. But anyway, that's just a different story. Huh. The thing about it is, there's a lot of bias when you're being raised in a Hispanic household. Yeah. There's a way that your parents raise you, that you're supposed to follow like a series of life.
Yeah.
You're supposed to, even getting an education, I don't even know if it was really priority for them.
Dating.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think I broke the mold when it came to that, because
That's
earlier
Jeanette.
on...
She's a mold breaker.
Earlier on, I knew
the sexual revolution, liberating women's rights, and breaking the mold in the 20th century.
Yes. But, I didn't want to... I saw how hard my parents worked. Yeah. And they didn't... they when I was in high school, it was new, Yeah. My mom didn't graduate from high school.
She did.
She did not.
Neither did my mother.
And my dad, when him growing up in Mexico, he couldn't go to school past a certain grade because it was going to cost money. And my grandparents were poor.
That's fascinating.
So he couldn't even get a high school education.
That's fascinating.
And I find him very smart. My father is a very curious man, and he asks questions, and he's a smart man. I just can only imagine what he would have been like, having an education. He's a smart man.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, even me going to high school and stuff like that, just growing up with my family, I mean, when they saw that, oh wow, she's actually going to graduate, they're like, yay, let's cheer her on, let's throw her a party.
What's that one movie about NASA? About those black women that were the calculators?
I love that one. Oh, I love that one. Hidden Figures. These
young girls, and they're African American, and they beat the odds. They were so smart. They put them through school, and they're working as calculators. And it's funny that they refer to them as calculators because you think of a calculator, you think of a calculator.
Yeah.
But that was an actual term given to people. That's what they did. They calculated, and they beat the odds. And they were such a pivotal part of like the space race in our country. Yeah. Do you know? It's like so, and it's funny because I mean, any culture it doesn't have to be just African Americans. It could be Mexican.
Doesn't have to. If you can like outlive the bias of your family,
right,
and start to question why. When you start to question why things are a certain way,
right,
I think people just have a chance.
That's
if you start to question it, and that's where I started questioning things earlier on.
Hey. Only in America.
And, if it wasn't... But, that's a part of, probably the culture. And you probably experienced it.
Well...
I don't know about your parents. Did they push you to go to...
I was a dumb little kid. But
I mean, I didn't say that.
My parents loved me to pieces, and they pushed us to succeed always. And
my parents... my parents...
Yeah.
They just wanted to provide. And they wanted to.
But you know what's funny about the Mexican culture? Yeah. They valued the hard work.
Yes.
I was like before education.
Oh, and I had a job earlier on. Trust me.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, well, mija, you want all of these things? Maybe it's time you get a job. Yeah. My first job was I had a work permit. Uh-huh. I was like 15.
Really?
Yeah. My first job was at the Dairy Queen.
How little we knew.
Well, I don't think you need a work permit, but I think you cannot work more than 10 hours. Legally, you couldn't have worked like more than 10 hours a week.
Crazy.
But I was like all about it. I'm like, you know what? I want money and I'm going to work.
Let me go back what I said, because like I said, Mexican culture values work over education. That's not everybody. There's a lot of smart Mexican people that understand the value of education, but there's a large portion of our culture that also valued the work over, it's like some people value the work over the education, and some people saw the value of the education and figured out how to make it happen. Do you know?
Oh, but I learned earlier on though, if you work hard, and you have like this, for me it was a job at the Dairy Queen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Walmart.
But me working even after even when I was able to work more, it was like I don't want to live my whole life doing this.
Right. And you figured it out very quickly.
Yeah, I realized that this is not gonna make me happy. So I've always had that need to go to school. Even when I was little, I would cry if I see the little kids getting on the bus.
I used to get picked up.
And I would cry because I couldn't go to school.
What's interesting about going to school, I like going to school because I think kids inherently like going to school because they're with their friends.
Yes, and when you're little,
some
it seems
kids don't
want
to sit there, and some kids don't want to do the work because it's very mundane and all that. But some kids like to go to school. But as kids, you say you cried. Now
I wanted to go to school.
You wanted to go to school. So I was bullied a lot as a kid. Mm-hmm. I have this list, and you probably can hear it when I talk. I still have it, but I was bullied, and it was challenging. But again, it kind of goes to the different languages growing up. Spanish language, English language, and it can happen to anybody with any culture. Even if you're Vietnamese and you grew up in a Vietnamese-speaking household, you're going to school, you're learning English, you could face the same kind of ridicule because kids can be mean. I don't think children are not inherently mean, but not knowing any better, they are mean. They can be mean, pick on each other. You know what I mean? Lord knows, I love to pick on people. I think it's funny. I think it's funny to pick on Jeanette.
I mean, he picked on me earlier as
God.
I mean, you just pick on me all the time. But I'm also one of those people who just I really don't care.
Yeah.
I just really don't care.
It's I don't give up.
I don't give. No, I'm just kidding. Whoa. Family,
it's not that, environment. PG, baby 13. Come on, Jeanette.
No, it's not that I don't care. I mean, I'm sure part of me cares, but I just, people are just too busy thinking about what other people think. Can't live life like that.
Has it been interesting seeing our country go through the last 5-6 years?
the last year. Good God.
I mean, I think about from like I said, I'm older than Jeanette.
Yeah, no.
I know you can't tell. Good genes, good hair. I mean, like, crazy. My hair's got.
He's actually 65. Like, yeah. Just so you all know, ladies.
75. So,
ladies, he's 65.
So I think of
or men.
George W. And from George W. So it's Clinton to George W. to Obama, Obama to Trump, Trump to Biden, and you just see how people in our country, they just swing from one side to the other, and different opinions come up, and the stance people take on whether it be conspiracy theories or homegrown stuff or whatnot. And it's just been interesting once you become conscientious of all that, like watching people in our country, you know what I mean, go through that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, we've had gay and lesbian rights come up. We had the Black Lives Matter. We've just seen in such a short amount of time. We've seen so much, and I'm sure it existed before. Like for me, I remember Ronald Reagan. I remember George Senior.
Yeah.
I remember all that, but it didn't really start making an impact to me because I think I was in high school during the Persian Gulf War. That was George W. And then.
And I didn't quite understand it either. I was kind of naive.
You don't understand it, but
I was naive, but I was
once you start understanding it, and that was kind of between the George W. and Obama when I really kind of came to age with that, and just people filled out the government, their rights about each other, homegrown terrorists, and the things that people can do. And then I think the last major thing that we saw was like I say, Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
The known what do you call that? The culture of getting known, or no, not getting known. I'm saying it wrong.
What
the
is
whole
it?
Karen culture and all that.
Oh gosh.
You're talking about getting woke.
Getting woke.
You know what I mean?
Getting woke.
And people that identify as like not either male or female, the opposite, gender, or maybe they don't identify as either. Maybe they're like you, they identify as a cat, and all these different.
So there's like a movement of people who identify themselves as cats.
You tell me.
I don't know. But, I think they're called furries.
Furries. That's a whole
That's
different
a whole new
can
thing.
Of worms. We're not
and
go there.
I'm not a furry, so just putting it out there. I'm not a furry.
If she's attractive, I might give it a try.
So putting it out there.
Putting it out there. I'm not. You gotta be open minded.
He's like, call me.
I look fantastic in a school outfit. But I think in the big scope of things, we've seen our country go through a lot of things of acceptance. You go to a lot of countries around the world, and where a lot of these what they consider very liberal ideas, they're still what do you call it? They're still frowned upon. They're still incarcerated. People are still treated very badly for these ideas. You know what I mean? And you can't speak out about it in some of these other countries around the world where they're very conservative, ultra conservative about it,
and then you have some that are even like super accepting about a lot of stuff.
Some that are super accepting.
Yeah, and and that's kind of interesting to see because you see, places like
I'm burping. I don't know if you can hear that.
I mean, places like where prostitution is legalized, and I mean even Canada, for God's sake.
Girls are trying to get this goal. If you got the goods, you can make some money.
I mean, and not only that. I mean, you have places like where it's even kind of displayed. You're talking about the Netherlands. Right. It's kind of displayed. I mean, my God, there's a whole district. For it.
But then you go down to places in Mexico, they have the red light big towns have big red light districts. You have I mean that's the whole other can of worms, because then you go from more countries where it's accepted to countries where you have this a sex slave trade still.
Yeah.
We joke around about that a lot.
But that human trafficking is real.
It's real.
And it's sad.
It's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we joke around about everything.
So, I mean, if you get sensitive about stuff like this, we might joke about it. So I'm so sorry.
But it's a real problem. It's true. and God bless it, they take young ladies. I don't know. I mean, you don't hear the stories about guys, but I mean, you hear about stuff with young boys in Hollywood and all that. So that still happens. But you still hear about the sex trade. They get kids that are young, that are attractive, and they bring them this lifetime, and they're essentially slaves. And then it's a whole mental process where you're brainwashed, where they take people that are like trafficked. Like they're part of the sex slave culture, and they remove them from it, and they return to it because they're essentially brainwashed.
Well, I mean, it kind of becomes a normal.
It becomes a normal.
I mean, how do you change a mindset that you've been kind of it's considered normal?
I don't know.
I mean, that's an example, but you think about like.
I don't know. It was some show I was watching where they got a girl that was a prostitute, and she had a pimp, and she couldn't get away from it. And I remember, like, he would beat her, sell her, and she'd bring the money back. But then he would provide for her also. He paid for her food, whatever she needed, she gave him. So it was like a catch-22. She never had money. She could never run away. She felt like her life was in danger, but she also needed him. So once somebody went in and saved her, removed her from that, she actually went back to it. And
well, don't they ever say that sometimes, like, even if you become kidnapped, or there's this thing where you can still, like, you will, like, still kind of, for whatever reason, still be attached,
right. You fall in love with your captor. Yeah. There's actually a name for that.
That is so messed up, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe you just relate love to the affection that they give, and you think that that's real, or maybe it is real for them. And
hold on, so it's fall in love with your captor. I should have brought my other laptop, but fall in love with your captor.
It seems. There's
a name for that. It's Stockholm syndrome. Stockholm syndrome. So we need a laptop here. Again, no budget. No budget. First episode. Don't kill the messenger. And if you do, it's Jeanette.
No.
There's Jeanette. I'm. You know what they say? If you're being chased like by a pack of wolves, you don't have to be the fastest guy.
You just have to be faster than the person next to you.
Yeah, don't be the slowest one. So, me and Jeanette, we have this thing. We are officially accountability buddies. Speaking of running and speed. I was doing pretty good. I was running like every other morning. I was doing good, and like somewhere during COVID
ruined everything.
COVID ruined everything. I stopped running. I was working out in my home gym, trying to stay fit, doing CrossFit on my own, like CrossFit workouts and all that. But I stopped running, and it started working again. Got a new job and stopped running. But so we're trying to get on track here.
And I just barely started walking this year.
So the goal is to be up by like 5:36.
Yes.
And so I'm not doing a good job. And Jeanette, she's probably doing better than
I consistently.
She's consistently not consistent.
I'm consistently not consistent. I mean, for me, just even to do it a few times a week is a big win, considering
we are battle buddies in this.
Yes.
So at 5:30-ish in the morning, one of us calls each other, and the first day we did it, we failed miserably.
Totally.
Because you called me, I went back to bed, and apparently you did too.
I did too. I rolled over, hit the snooze, and woke up later.
So the alarm goes off. One of us is going to reach out to each other, and we're going to stay on the phone to motivate each other to get out of bed.
This morning was also a failure because I didn't set my alarm.
I set my alarm. Had you not
called me...
I was up at 4:30.
Had you not called me... At the time, I would have already been
So
up.
it's weird.
I wouldn't have had time to do my walk. It's
not a matter of waking up. I can wake up. I was up by 4:30. I can wake up. I wake up almost every day at 5. But I'm not motivated. And freaking social media, and I have nothing but myself to blame. I'm all there in bed. I'm all on Facebook. Well, let me check out Instagram. And are there girls twerking on Twitter? I don't know.
Girls twerking on Twitter.
So yeah, I stay in bed and I fall back asleep. And my final alarm goes off around 7:15, and I'm like, I gotta get a shower. And I'm a guy. If you're a guy listening, a little water, and you're out of bed, you're ready to go to work. But so our goal is to be up and run. So tomorrow's Friday. It's a good way to end the week.
It is a good day. And you're running because I'm still just trying to work. Right. But tomorrow I will put some weights to it.
Well, I might.
The goal is for me now it has to be this. Obviously, to get up earlier, to do more in the morning, enjoy my morning. Mm-hmm. And, having that energy.
Right.
But also to consistently do it to a point where I'm doing it every day.
Right.
I mean, and then you can progress to like evenings and, progress. But right now, the challenge is just getting up.
Oh, absolutely.
I'll still do it, but I'm rushing in the morning.
We're battle buddies in the battle of life. We're being accountability buddies and holding each other accountable. We're going to get through this.
We are. We will.
Jeanette, you've been walking every morning. So we've been talking about this. I told you some of my strategies. I like to fast once a week.
Yes.
I do a lot of intermittent fasting.
I will do the fasting, but I find that I have to balance socializing.
Right.
And fasting and exercise.
Either Sundays or the beginning of the week. I have my dinner dates with my special friend.
Yes.
And Tuesdays, so I pick a day that I fast completely. I like to fast maybe even twice a day if I can. Or twice in a week.
Twice a week, that would be awesome. Once a week Sunday would be amazing.
Sunday would be good. I think.
Do you ever do 2 days in a row?
Oh yeah, I've done a full week and a half in a row.
Holy smokes!
For a while there, I was doing like 3 or 4 days in a row. I was going crazy, and it's funny because the more you fast, the easier it gets. And once you start fasting, you start realizing how easy it is. And you still go to the gym, you still go to work, you still do everything. And you just realize how easy it is.
And then your magical imagination friend just shows up.
I know, right?
So then you have more company.
Right.
So, your brain's dying.
I know, right? Your brain is slowly dying.
Your brain is dying.
Slowly dying.
Your best friend comes into view.
Hey,
your childhood imagination friend suddenly shows up.
But... we're gonna do this. We're COVID. There's still the public health order, but everything's opening up. We're like 30 minutes away from Texas. Texans don't give up, and they've been open already. So the culture here is that we've been kind of opening up already. So life is starting to normalize.
Yes.
So with life normalizing, we have to build up good habits.
And yes, and because of COVID, you gotta be energetic and and just to put this out there, there's people out there who gave us jobs, so we have to give back. Gotta give back.
I think it's I think we've gone through a lot. No matter what you think with COVID, no matter where you think it started, or there's so many different ideas. People think you're gonna get it, herd immunity. Doesn't matter what you think. It's still incumbent upon yourself to live your best life possible.
Yeah.
And by living your best life possible, you gotta make the effort to take care of yourself, right? Whether it's eating healthy, whether it's exercising, getting good routines, and we've gone through so much. We've known people that have died. We've been isolated for months at a time. People haven't worked for like almost a year, and it's time to get back on track.
And I've been sacrificing beer for liquor, so...
No, you haven't. Shut your mouth.
Except for yesterday.
I know, right? And you know what? Let me tell you, I think... I am not one to think that like all alcohol is bad, or I think everything in moderation. I gave up drinking beer throughout the week. I lost a lot of weight, doing well.
I don't buy beers.
You don't buy beers. Okay.
Last night I did have beers.
But we went out, and that was once a week.
And I didn't buy. I don't buy beers anymore.
I like to have a drink once a week too. I think you can be responsible, and you can still do all this, and you can still drink, you can still enjoy it all, and you know what I mean? It's still possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you just have to find what works.
You have to find what works.
And
I'm all on my phone right now.
I know.
What's catching my attention? Okay, so let's just say this. I have ADHD to like the nth degree.
I'm used to it though. To me it's normal.
The way our conversation
I just flow. I'm like, whatever. I go with the flow.
Yeah.
We could spend probably like a lot of time talking about everything.
I think we will.
Everything and anything.
So we spent like an hour doing our ghost hunting, and we'll pull up a clip. Maybe over an hour. Half an hour at the first place, maybe a little bit more after the second place. I'm dropping in clips, so it'll be a little bit longer and all that good stuff. We've been doing this for about an hour, and which is not bad for our first time, but Yeah, we can.
We can go on forever. I mean,
forever.
Just so you all know, whoever's watching, our one viewer.
Our one viewer. Just.
So, brainstorming.
Right.
You and I work together. We
Right.
still love to brainstorm.
Right.
Now we're friends, and we still like to talk about everything. I have no idea. No clue. Twisted sense of humor. I think it goes a long way.
Oh my god. Oh my god. So yeah. So I'm really excited about this, and I'm really excited where this is going and all that good stuff. I really am.
I think it's gonna be good.
It is gonna be good.
It'll be fun.
It's totally excited. You know what I mean?
And it sounds like we're probably going to talk about anything, everything, and a lot of nothing.
So kind of just to wrap around.
Okay, wrap around. Let's wrap this up.
So, paranormal activity.
Okay.
Plausible.
I think it totally is. And, I
think science is advanced, like, tremendously. I think there's people that are way smarter than me that do the work and they do all sorts of stuff and they're discovering quantum computers, like what? You know what I mean?
There's a lot of creepy stuff out there too.
So, and to say that there's this whole paranormal activity might exist on a whole nother level that we just don't know how to measure it. Because like science is the ability to quantify and measure stuff and study stuff. And to study things, you have to quantify it. But if it's on a whole different level that we don't know how to quantify it yet, is it possible? I mean, if a fish is in water, the fish is like, oh God, the world's wet, I'm swimming through all this stuff, and it quantifies life through its lenses. The fish is quantifying life through its lenses. It's swimming in the ocean's hot, warm, salty, fresh water, whatever, right? A fish will never be able to quantify life on land. Right? It doesn't live on land. It doesn't know how to quantify it on land. Much less a fish in outer space. How would it quantify that? That's a whole different level, right?
That'd be so cool if there was fish in outer space.
But I know. But think about it. A simple life form trying to quantify life on that level in outer space. It's just like it's like in a whole different ball game, whole different world. It cannot quantify. So is it plausible that there's a whole different level that we don't know how to quantify and study scientifically, and we just call it like this paranormal activity? Is that plausible?
I think it is. Some of that stuff cannot be measured, but there's things that are, technology is getting better. Come on. There wouldn't be all these ghost hunting shows.
There is empirical evidence, because it's all about the empirical evidence that you can measure and study, right? So you do hear sounds.
And you have like heat sensory technology, you got night vision.
Electromagnetic
and then you have the white noise, and you've got all of this stuff that you can technically prove
it's
something.
It's almost like a bread trail. You don't know where the source of it is, you don't know where it's coming from, but you're finding all these little crumbs everywhere.
Yeah.
And you're gathering all these crumbs, and since there's little crumbs, you can't put them together yet. But eventually, you collect enough crumbs, you get enough people studying it, you get enough, eventually technology will advance enough that maybe all these little crumbs do start coming together. They start forming patterns, they start forming things that we can study, and we realize there may be something there. Maybe, right?
And I think that there's going to be something there. And people who just don't believe, they will always come up with a reason as to why it happens. And you're not going to be able to convince those people. Right. But at the same time, you're not going to be able to convince people who've witnessed it and heard it. And and if it's just one person, then you'd say, okay, you're a little nuts.
Why are some people more sensitive to it?
And yes. And that's true. There are some people who
just like there's some people that are more sensitive to the cold. There's some people that are more sensitive to hot. So do you know those little electrical boxes where you hold the wires? You go, like college thing. You're like, but
you electrocute
I
yourself.
remember we were at this like house party and we were all holding hands and we were all doing this and it was crazy. And then there was one guy that walks in. He's our age. He's having a good time. He's drinking, and he holds the wires and they crank it up and he doesn't feel it.
Oh wow!
Do you know what I mean? Why are some people so sensitive they barely touch it and they get a jolt? And here's this guy grabs the wires and he didn't feel anything at all. You know what I mean?
Because people are just built different. I mean, same thing for why some people are more.
So you take it back. Take it back to why some people are sensitive to it and others aren't.
Yeah.
Kind of along the same lines. You know what I mean? I wish I knew. Sometimes I wish I had the ability to be sensitive to it, and sometimes I don't. It goes back and forth.
I'm glad I'm not.
It'd almost be scary.
I like not knowing.
Yeah.
Because my office, or the one I was in before, because I'm no longer in that office, in the building that I'm at, they would always spot a shadow man sitting in front of my desk. And it has been spotted a couple of times by people.
That's a whole nother story.
And I've never
of Shadow Man or Hat Man.
Yeah, and I've never felt uncomfortable. I never sensed it.
Fascinating.
But we had that one caregiver, that one nurse, and you know who I'm talking about, who would say, "Hey, do you feel that? Do you ever feel uncomfortable? Because there's someone in your office sitting there. It's been in that office." But I never felt uncomfortable.
Right. Some people are just sensitive to it and some aren't. Just like that kid, he grabbed the electrical wires. He didn't feel it, but yet when I touched it, I was like, ah.
And I'm happy I'm not because, wow, that would just...
Yeah, who knows?
Sometimes ignorance can be bliss, or maybe sometimes it's good.
But if you grew up with it, you would be accepting of it.
And I would be so exhausted. Can you imagine if you saw things all the time or heard things? I mean, you'd never sleep. Your mind would always be
like that kid from The Sixth Sense.
Yes, that would be terrible.
He's walking through an old building that's a judicial courthouse now, and they're going to court. But then when he's walking down the hall, he sees people hanging there.
Yeah,
because they used to hang people.
That's such a good movie.
Right?
But I'm glad I don't. So think about that.
Yeah, right? Wrap your head around that, right?
Wrap your head around that.
So plausible. And I think everything else we talk. I think, you know what? The reality of it is this. I really feel this. I think if you can think of it, it's possible.
Oh.
Star Trek. Think about Star Trek.
I love Star Trek.
Think about Star Trek. They were talking about technology. They try to be very scientific about it. But they were coming up with scientific ideas that didn't exist, but they try to keep it real in nature. Mm-hmm. But they were coming up with all these ideas. A lot of stuff which has already come to pass. Communicators, devices, cell phones, all that.
But then there's also that theory that, or what people say is that, going back to aliens, that some people believe that the technology that exists today is because aliens have been here and they've handed it over.
Yeah,
they've handed it over, and had it not been for them, we probably would not have.
We don't know.
That's
right?
What they say.
And that's a whole other conversation. I can go down a deep rabbit hole, and that's a challenge. You can go down a rabbit hole so deep and get so much information.
Yeah.
You don't want to be that guy.
You don't want to be that conspiracy theorist.
Right. You're the conspiracy nut at the party where people think you're nuts.
Yeah.
And so you take all this information, and I think you internalize it and you think about it and you open your mind to it.
Yeah.
And when people bring it up, you present the information you think it's plausible or whatnot, but you try to do it in a way that you still sound credible. You don't sound like a nut. And I think you could do a good job of it, but it's a difficult thing when you're going down the rabbit hole to not be that guy, not to be that crazy conspiracy guy.
Well, it'd be hard to look sane or to.
And it's funny because if you're the conspiracy person,
yeah,
it almost has a negative connotation anymore.
Yeah.
Or you're the weird guy. Oh, conspiracy theory, or government, or one world order.
But at the same time, that's that one person who can bend their mind enough. Right. To accept possible situations.
Sure. Absolutely.
I mean, you have to. I mean, I kind of think about it that way. I mean, maybe at the time,
mm-hmm.
you might think, you may not agree, and you might think it is crazy. But when you really start to think about that person,
is anything really crazy though?
Honestly, I
mean, you think about Einstein in the theory of relativity, that two people going at different speeds.
You're gonna
time goes at a different speed.
You need those conspiracy theorists.
Right.
You need those people who can think outside the box. You need those people.
Theory,
yeah, you need them because otherwise they're not gonna project us forward.
So let's think about it this way: you have bits of matter like quarks and muons, things that you cannot see, They're smaller than electrons, protons, and neutrons. And that is so small you cannot see it. But you have these guys that believe that there's still more smaller fundamental like pieces of matter or of energy. You know what I mean? Like borons, corons, nuons. I don't even know if it's boron. What is that one called? But there's all these little fundamental pieces of matter. And these people believed in it so strongly and they studied it, and they're like, oh, that's not really, you're just a weirdo. That's not true. But it comes out to be true. So it's like being resolute in your ideas, but not just spitting out your ideas to think that you're crazy, but to follow through on it, to do the research, to do the work, to prove it true. Do you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, God, who? If you go back to 1920 to say like, you know, guys in the trenches of World War One, they're using little wind-up radio that has wires going everywhere. And you know, say, hey, one day you're not going to need that. One day you're going to be able to communicate with a soldier on the other battlefield, and your radio wave is going to bounce off a satellite instantly and talk to him. And then while you're talking to him, you're going to need information on this thing we call the World Wide Web. Imagine telling somebody from 1920 trying to describe what the World Wide Web is. They're going to think, okay, so the web around the world? No, it's not a web you can see, but you can access it. And it accesses information all around the world. Well, how do you access it? Is there like wires all around the world? No, it's not through the wire. It goes through the air. And back then they were still using pigeons. Okay, so how does it go through the air? Do you like throw it through the air? Does it like transport through the air? No. It's just there. Like if you try to tell somebody how the internet works, it's just there. And you have access to it. How would you describe that to somebody in 1920? Not that they couldn't wrap their head around it, but it's so crazy to them to think about it that they'd be like, oh, you're nuts.
So the thing is, I think it's possible.
It's possible.
Just because we can't see it, I mean, it's there. Right. I totally think it's possible.
So anything.
I think it's possible.
If you can think
ghosts or, you know, whatever, aliens, paranormal, it is like completely possible.
It's the difference between like a theoretical, somebody that's studying theoretical mechanics, theoretical physics and all that. They study so much in theory, but then the physical mechanical work is not there yet. So the material work is not there yet. So let's talk like alien craft. You're talking about aliens. Okay, man, we have we know there's these alien spaceships. They go a zillion miles per hour. They stop, make a 90-degree turn, a zillion miles per hour this way. Then they just go into the water like that, and they don't smash. They go into the water, and it's like, okay, can you imagine if you could make a craft that had a space shield around it, a force field, that can manipulate gravity to go that fast because they don't have a heat signature, they don't have an engine, but they still move so fast, right? And even to say, if you were studying physics and you're like, okay, we can manipulate gravity, but the reality of it is material science is not there yet. So we don't have the capability to make the lightweight metals, to produce the energy source, to manipulate the gravity. We could put it on paper theoretically all we want. We could prove it theoretically on paper all we want, but the material science is not caught up to it yet.
Yeah.
Okay, so like the World Wide Web. The World Wide Web once was like, you know, they thought of it like what, the 70s or something, DARPA, the government, and they're coming up with, you know, through phone lines. Well, what if information, it takes like seconds, minutes, it takes time for that information to get from point A to point B. And so the theoretical physicists are thinking like, well, what if we could transmit that information through like light waves? How would that work? And they're like, well, the material science is not there. But then one day they develop fiber optics. Worldwide, you know, when you're on the web and you're working on a network that runs off fiber optics, the information's like that.
Fast. It's gonna be faster.
So suddenly the material science catches up to the theoretical science.
But still, though, there's that one person who can still think even further and say, "What if we can do this?" Like, we don't know how it could happen, but there has to be something that can make it happen. There has to
be a way, but the physical science has not caught up yet.
Yeah.
So who's not to say, like, oh man, if we were aliens and you had these anti-gravity machines and you had these antimatter engines and you could do this, and you could do that, and X, Y, Z, blah, blah. And in theory, it sounds great. It sounds almost radical, but it's only radical because the material science is not caught up to it. And human ingenuity is good enough that we'll get there. And it might take 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years to get there.
It's going to take 100 years. All these homeschool kids are...
Right. Oh, my God. Jeanette. Oh, my God.
Sorry, I had to throw it out there.
Jeanette.
Sorry.
We have nothing against homeschooled kids. I actually like homeschooled kids. Jeanette, homeschooled
I know,
kids.
dude.
Oh, my God.
Jeanette's
just railroading everywhere. I'm going to get Jeanette a railroad hat. She's gonna, I want to railroad everybody. It's a fascinating idea, though.
It is a fascinating idea.
And you talk about material science, in the careers that we've chosen, we see people that lived to 80, 90, 100 years old.
It's gonna get better. Technology is gonna get better.
It is.
You see it all the time. You see it with the new phones. You see it with all the new technology, all the new games. It's getting better. Not even slowly. It's rapidly getting better.
Leaps and bounds.
Yeah. I joke, but no, seriously, it is getting better. And I joke about the homeschool kids, but they're the only ones who know how to work that stuff. I'm just kidding.
Oh my God. I need another drink still.
I know.
I need another drink. I don't.
I'm just kidding.
Episode 2 is coming.
I love it.
What are you going to drink for episode 2? Have you thought that far ahead?
Oh, we should have a theme, right?
Well, you're doing vodka. I'm doing scotch.
I like vodka, yeah.
This is my go-to. I like scotch. I graduated from Crown. I needed something to replace beer because when I stopped drinking beer and I wanted to take care of my health self, I stopped drinking beer and I started Crown because Crown goes well with Coke. And
it's good. I forget how good it is, honestly.
Nice taste. It's got a great story behind it. And then I graduated to scotches. And like I say, Johnny Black to me is a good all-around kind of just chill scotch. I might bring out another scotch. I don't know. We'll see what we bring next time. We'll think about that.
Yeah.
We haven't even thought about a topic for that far ahead.
Yeah, I'm sure something will come up.
Something will come up.
Come on.
Right. Good times.
Hanging with my buddy.
Good conversation.
Oh, hanging out with my friend Mark.
Jeanette.
Get the feels.
But yeah, episode 1, it was fun.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see episode 2. We have friends we talk to that want to be a part of it. I need to get another mic. So this, I've been listening to podcasts. I hear people that say like anybody can do a podcast. I'm a big Joe Rogan fan. Anybody, just do it. And he says you don't even need sophisticated technology. I thought at least get some cheap mics, get a mixing board so you can connect everything down.
Yeah.
So I got what I needed, and if I can I'll get another mic so we can invite somebody else on board so we get guests.
Yes, and there's plenty of guests who.
And eventually we'll graduate our technology. We'll be able to do better editing. I know I want to get I've been looking at some HD cameras, and this is just my little office here. We'll see how it goes, and we'll kind of get it where we need to go. But I'm pretty excited about this.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of cool if Jeanette could keep her body mouth in check and she can stay sober.
Sorry. I don't apologize.
Not tell us her X-rated stories and this lavish lifestyle she lives and
the lifestyle.
They.
So tame.
They.
So tame.
But
I like to joke and I am sarcastic. So
yeah,
I like to party.
We'll see where this goes.
I like to party.
I'm excited about this. I've been wanting to do this in a long time, and I have a Twitter account. We have an email. We might set up a separate email. We might get some stuff going, get social media going here.
Actually, I don't even have social media, but that's probably a good idea.
I've got Instagram. I've got an extra Instagram, an extra Twitter. I use Squarespace. You're not sponsoring us, but if you'd like to. But I use Squarespace. I have a website I don't really keep up with, but it's really easy to set up websites. So I might do something like that, and we'll just see where this goes, one step at a time.
Yeah.
And not too bad. We've been on for about an hour and a half, actually.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of flown by.
Yeah, it has.
We have 2 hours of video from our little rendezvous the other night.
That was fun.
That was fun. Fun and creepy. The first half was creepy.
Yeah.
The second half was just chill.
Yeah, it was.
But
just hanging at the cemetery on a But on a Saturday night,
just a couple of kids hanging out at the cemetery.
No biggie.
Oh, everybody's doing it.
I mean, we're the only people sitting on the cemetery wall.
Just come dance with me. We're the cemetery. Come dance with me. I know, right? Yeah.
And just chilling in the dark.
I don't know. If I could get like a wireless mic system, next time we go hang out at the bar with our friends, we'll be like, all right, guys, and go.
Boom.
Boom. I don't know.
Come hang out with us. So that's funny that you say that. I had hung out with a friend, and she brought a coworker who was videotaping our hang with 2 phones. So she had the stand with 1 phone here, and then it was live feeding to her friends out in the Philippines. So they were like partying with us.
That's crazy cool.
It was very cool. And we were all in the shop.
Were they like on video and be like, hey, can you pass the chips? And you're like, you're in Zoom, I can't pass you the chips.
Can't pass you the chips.
But
it was very interesting. I mean, they were, partying with us in Las Cruces, New Mexico. And we were a group of us, 3 people on one side, 3 on the other. And
imagine describing that to somebody 100 years ago. You're going to be able to hang out and party with somebody
unfathomable.
On a glass pane. Like, you think about 100 years ago, they didn't have TVs, right? So we have a glass pane that's going to project a picture of your friend all the way around the world. Like, well, how's my friend getting the picture getting the glass? Is it just a picture? No, it's going to be them. So they're stuck in the glass. They're not stuck in the glass. They're all the way around the world, but you can see them on the glass. Like, well, how do they get on the glass?
It's like, right?
You know what I mean? Like, that's demonic.
That's bad juju. You're a witch.
That's bad juju. Oh my God. Holy water. But
you'd probably be killed that day, burned
I know,
to
right?
the
Stone her.
Yeah, you'd have to keep your mouth shut about that.
Right, but try to describe that to somebody 100 years ago.
It's very cool what we can do these days. So here's the thing. It's very cool.
Let's quantify this real fast. Okay. 100 years ago, you're trying to tell somebody about internet, about a Tesla car, about fighter jets, internet, cell phones. 100 years ago, if you put it into context, 100 years ago from today, that's only your grandparents.
That's interesting. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, maybe a hair over. My grandfather he was 85. So that may be a little bit more than your grandparents.
Oh, we have a special guest.
Oh, come here, Spartacus. My dog Spartacus, he's older than dirt. Come here.
Special guest Spartacus.
Oh, you can't see him. Oh, Spartacus wants to get in the picture. Aww. He's an old dog. He's 14. He's a half pit bull, half Catahoula leopard dog. Hey, go lay down. Go. And there he goes. He goes, lays down. He's a good dog. But that's only the lifespan of just like from you to your grandfather. 100 years. Your grandmother, grandfather, whoever.
It's amazing.
So if you think about it, we talk about 100 years, like, God, 100 years ago is a long time ago. You're only like one life away from that 100 years ago.
How crazy.
So 2 lives away from that. Your grandfather and his father. You're already back in the Civil War. They're fighting for slavery. So when you put it into context, you're only 2 people away from that. Do you know what I mean? How crazy is that?
Yeah.
I mean...
That is kind of weird.
It is kind of weird.
But then you think about, like, our friend who can post her party session.
Right.
And anyone can see it.
Here's the thing. You tell this to somebody 100 years ago, they're like, it's amazing. We're going to be able to tell people about God. We're going to be able to study science. We're going to make great advances for the good of man. And here we are in 2021, and it's like, party girl. Oh, I'm online. Hey, what's going on?
You know what our grandparents would be saying?
You stupid kids.
They'd be like, I can't believe women can vote.
We're related. Are you sure related? It's like 100 years seems like a long way. Are you sure? Like, are you adopted? I don't know. Yeah.
There's so many cool things, but
right.
It's exciting.
It is. I mean,
who knows what's going to happen? Maybe next year we'll finally get the flying car.
By the time we die, imagine how life will look like when we die, if the Earth is still here.
You know, just kind of like throwing it out there. It's amazing what we've seen in our life. Like even just like the age. Like I was born in 1977.
Dude, you're older than dirt. You're older than me.
I know. 1 year.
She's older than me. You heard it here live.
1 year.
Wow.
I know.
Did I say I was older than dirt?
Yeah, you did.
Whoa! I forgot about
77,
that.
Yeah.
So,
But even then, what we've seen since then,
I think about things like oh, it's my little lady.
Oh, you know what? We are gonna have to wrap this up, though. I mean, there's so much we can talk about, but we should save it for
another time.
For another time. So let's think of something. So is going back to the original question, paranormal activity. Possible.
I think it's
plausible.
I
think we've talked about how
plausible.
it is. I agree it is.
I think it's plausible. Maybe the material science has not gotten there to be able to fully understand it and measure and quantify it, but it's plausible.
I think it is too.
150 years ago to say that, hey, we're going to be flying fighter jets that go faster than sound, they'd be like, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But it is completely plausible, right?
Yes. So we don't know what we're going to talk about next time, but there should be.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even matter. It'll come. Mm-hmm. It will just happen.
It will come. It's going to happen. You know what I mean?
But, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Good first time.
It's cool. It's going to happen.
All right. Well, let's take our final drink.
Well, yeah. I'm on my... I think about Leon Phelps, the ladies' man. So, yeah, my glass of Cavassier is empty. You know what time? You know that means lady. But it was a good talk, and my glass is empty. Yours is almost empty.
All
Cheers!
Right. Cheers!
We'll do it. We'll do it again. Jeanette's going out of town next week, so we'll try to get one in the bag before she leaves.
Yeah.
And we'll do it. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Okay.
All right. Well, sounds good.
Yeah, Jeanette. Thank you. Good night. Thank you Thank you to our one viewer listening to our first episode. 0 budget. We don't even have any music going out, you know.
We can't even play popular music, but
we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Maybe we'll get somebody to make us music. I don't know. It'll work. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Hey, thank you. You have a good night. And this is Mark.
This is Jeanette.
Hey, have a good night.
Have a good night.
We'll do it again sometime. Cool. That was fun.
Cool. Bye.
Wow. Crazy.
Yeah.
Cray.
We talked a lot.
God.
It's funny how easy it can get.